Alrighty, well, we are going to roll. I have a few more joining. Probably should give more notice before we're going to do them, but I've been deeper in music production and things as of late, so that's where my focus has been amongst a lot of one-on-one time. People have been really, going through a lot of changes. I think it's naturally a time for this, as usual, as we head into the end of the year towards the solstice. With like the change in the temperature and the sunlight and all of that, it can really get the shadow going. It can really get a lot of darker, elements of things coming up. So I find yeah, it's just been a lot of one-on-one time, a lot of transitions and challenges and great things as well. I mean, challenges obviously bring the beauty to the surface. They give us an opportunity to embrace the whole of our experience, not just the side in which we may find comfortable, or we may think that is all we really need to enjoy. Like, just if we just stay in the comfort, then everything will be okay. But there's great beauty in effort, and for us to come into a space of peacefulness. The title of the Zoom is often Awaken to Peace, or I'm talking about peace often. Well, peace and effortlessness are often very intertwined, but effortlessness is a product of effort. It's a product of engaged action. We come to effortlessness by way of us moving through our healing process as to why we're here. It's very much why we're here. And coming into that healing process takes a lot of effort. It takes the utmost effort. There's nothing that requires more effort than the than this journey of healing and ascension and just overall just coming to balance, coming to our natural state. And it's so paradoxical, right? Because all the non-dualists will talk about the fact that, well, you are already it, you are already that, you are already this natural state. How could you never ever not be? And so the question lies, well, what is our actual direct experience of that? If that's our direct experience, then, well, by all means, then we know that this is the truth. But until we know that this is the truth, the karmas of our actions and our ways are going to kind of take fold anyways. So it doesn't really matter how many times we repeat ourselves, these non-dual phrases and all that, although that's really beautiful, actually, because it's great affirmation, like a mantra. The teachings have to take, the full spectrum of the approach of our path has to come forth. You can't just be repeating, non-dual Advaita-based statements that, we're already there, we're already enlightened, we're already perfect, all of that. That doesn't really have the meaning it has is the direct experience we have of it. Like anything, any mantra, any affirmation, any teaching, any practice, it is only as useful as we're actually engaging in, and we've actually come to know what that practice or what that teaching or what that affirmation is pointing to. And as we know it, then and it's not like a this and then that. It's kind of like progressive. But as we progressively engage it, we progressively come to know it. And that's a really beautiful thing, because it's an ever humbling thing, really, because it shows us that, well, yes, effort is very much a part of this path. There's no room for laziness or a lack of engagement. But we have to know our rhythm too. We have to know what's being what's aligned for us on our own journey, right? We may get in the comparison game when even in spirituality, it's so funny, like we seem to want to escape the comparison game from the rat race of the world, and then we get in spirituality and it can be a comparison game just the same, because we're looking at, well, is this person that I'm listening to in a state of peace? Have they healed themselves in certain ways? Are they free from trauma? Are they enlightened? Are they awakened? All these kind of terms. So there's going to be some level of, well, like comparing, well, where am I at compared to what they're talking about and where they may be at and what they're experiencing. And this can be helpful in a certain light, of course, because we're going to want to pass people that we're listening to through a bit of a test of our intuition and of like a qualification, obviously, of what they're speaking to. But the trap there, obviously, is that it can very much make us or ignite within us this desire to do certain things or to do certain things at a certain pace that may or may not be totally aligned for where we're at. And so it's highly valuable that we're not putting all of our eggs into the basket of the teachings of anybody or anything or any all recommendations, all pointers, all teachings. Everything is taken as for what it is. It's taken, it's received with gratitude and appreciation, and it's also passed through our own resonance because and well, as we heal, naturally we come into a deeper clarity of resonance as to what is what. What is what and who is who. This is kind of what I was mentioning about the whole twin flame thing in my post recently. It's kind of a random topic, but I got asked it, so I just share in real time, the questions I'm getting and the answers I'm giving for the most part on Instagram, especially. And this topic about twin flames and all this, and a lot of what I was kind of alluding to with that is, as we really focus on our path of healing and our resolution of our polarities within our own being, we can come to a place of deeper clarity as to who is who and what is what within our life. So, in terms of the dynamics of who's in our soul family or matrix, or, if there's a certain person that, we feel is connected in a certain way and holds a certain place within our higher levels of identity, because there is a very scientific structure to the identity of, to the levels of our identity and the people that we come in contact with. Because they're reflections of ourselves, some of them. So coming to a clarity within our being through a deepened space of healing and again that effort that has come by way of us clearing the fog ever so slowly and methodically, then we can come to see who people actually are. It's not a guessing game any longer. We're not in this place where we're just trying to convince ourselves, oh, this person is that, this person is that, blah blah blah. Because I would say the majority of the time, these assumptions are incorrect, because the teachings, firstly, of these types of topics like twin flame and stuff is generally coming for people who are still romanticizing the topic a lot, and that could be through certain layers of projection and all that. So that's one thing. But then the second is obviously then our own projections and our own fantasies and all that, where there's a lot of romanticizing of these types of topics, especially because, relationships and sexuality and all of that is a very prominent topic. And it's one that is, tip top of the focus for 99% of people. And so, if that's such a strength of a topic, then naturally it's going to come with a lot of projection, a lot of, kind of distortions to it. And there is no shortage of that within this topic, particularly within New Age culture. And again, it's often coming from an innocent intention, but very much from the longing and the wounding that has occurred within relationships to fantasize that there is some magical partner that's going to kind of change and save everything. And although, as some of us may have already experienced a deep relationship with someone we're very connected to, or maybe a twin flame type of dynamic or something that is, similar to that, or any relationship that creates a really deep bond and a deep experience of love. Yes, naturally, there's going to be some beauty in that. Obviously, I mean, it's one of the most beautiful experiences we can share in this human bodies on this planet. And at the same time, that comes without not without any particular challenges, many challenges, obviously. And like we started with today, coming to peace, coming to effortlessness comes through the utmost effort. And the beauty is that when we are able to just commit ourselves to the process of effort, effortlessness is not so far behind that, right? Anyone who's been in any sort of creative flow, right? You say it's at a sports game, or you're writing, or doing music or art, or having a great conversation, or at a party. As you build the momentum of your creative engagement, like you've stepped over that initial hump of, I haven't talked to people in a while, I don't know if I want to go out to that event, or, I haven't picked up a paintbrush in so long, I don't think I can do it yet, whatever it may be. Once you push through that initial little resistance, then the momentum builds. And as the momentum builds, very quickly that effortlessness starts to emerge, especially if you've been working this for some time, right? Over time, as you keep developing a certain skill set, the effortlessness comes very quickly after the effort is committed to. That's the beautiful thing, right? But nobody's exempt from that. Even the, what someone may view as an adept master or an enlightened being or something, nobody's excused or relieved from the responsibility and the necessity of that initial commitment. Like, again, it doesn't matter if you're Michael Phelps, jumping in a cold pool is still going to be a cold pool. It doesn't matter, Olympic medals or not. You're going to be hit by that initial resistance, and that is just the nature of this experience. So the only thing we can do really is to recognize some teachings that have been in old traditions, like in Buddhism, right? Everything is in perpetual change and motion. So if everything's in perpetual and change and motion, what does this mean for our individual life experience? It means to move our creative energy all the time, to be in a movement of our energy all the time. And when we feel like we're getting stagnant, the longer we wait in that stagnancy, the more we're going to face the resistance, the more we're going to face that suffering, that little bit of blips on the road. And so when we kind of start to recognize these blips or these little bouts of suffering or these kind of cycles that are really challenging, they don't get confusing anymore. You're not confused as to why they're there, because it's simply because the energy is not moving in some way. My body's not moving, my creativity is not moving, my voice isn't moving, my inner fluids are not moving, my colon maybe is blocked up, that's not moving, these types of things. There's movement in every regard of our anatomy on all levels, all dimensions. So it's really just recognizing, well, something's not moving right now. And if something's not moving right now, what is it? Right. And you won't even really need to ask why, because you'll know that, well, you're existing in a body that is still healing potentially, right? There's still traumas, there's still things that are there that is completely fine. The people have this illusion that awakening or enlightenment, or you get to some level of realization, all of a sudden that goes away. Not at all. It's like a scar. I mean, a scar on the physical body, anyone who's done any fasting or detox knows that a physical scar will be one of the last things that will heal, because it's just not a priority, right? Your body's not going to put that as a high priority. So that's going to still be there. It's not something that just like goes away just because, you've learned some new, healing methodology, right? It could take many, many, many years. So this is kind of that humbling acceptance that's required, because inevitably cycles return and cycles happen. And so as long as we're just aware of the fact that a cycle is occurring or cycle's happening, then we can rest in it and we can do what we need to do to manage it, right? To manage it. So whether that's, taking rest or going a bit easier on ourselves, or telling our friends that we need a bit of support at this time, our family, or things of this nature, right? Telling yourself you need a bit of this support, taking a couple of days off work, or going to do something you really enjoy, having a beautiful meal, whatever that may be. It's recognizing your rhythm and respecting your rhythm, and not forcing yourself to somehow skip the rhythm, because it doesn't matter how hard you try. It doesn't matter really, although it matters in the sense that we can get out of the trap of victimhood and wallowing, because that can prolong that period of the cycle and resistance, right? Where there's this victimhood, and then there's a wallowing in it, and a kind of just a loathing, and then maybe looking for attention within that, within that space. That can be a tendency. So as long as we're aware of the tendencies we have and how they occur, again, we can be well prepared for and how cycles inevitably return. And this doesn't become this like big thing where we're ready for this next big cycle. It's just respecting the fact that we're on these like little micro cycles as well. And this is happening all day, every day. There's all kinds of these little cycles that are going. Much of our path is dissolving the kind of prison experience that these cycles can be, where we feel like we're stuck within the karmic wheel, and we have no power over our habits and our compulsions and our subconscious behavior. And it's not so much about having power over, it's just about recognizing it's not It's not separate from you, and certainly not your master. It's not something that has to control your experience. But it's something that can be lived with, right? You don't even need to banish it. It's just something that can be lived with, and in the right time, like a leaf falling off a tree, things just kind of naturally fall away, and it's kind of like just like falling away in the distance. You don't even really know when it actually fully disappears on some level, right? It's like watching a sunset, so at some point it's just gone, and you're like, oh, okay, right? So yeah, so this is a kind of an initial message. I feel like I'm sharing it, as just kind of like a topic of, right now, as I've been observing this in my own life experience, and many of the people I come in contact, through one-on-one sessions a lot is these kind of cycles that are repeating, and sometimes doing sessions with people where we're talking about the same things we did last time, but just at a little bit of a lesser degree, or it's a very similar situation happening once again, but with a bit more clarity, a bit more of an awareness, and that's completely fine, right? It's just recognizing that this path requires only awareness, and as long as we're just perpetually bringing awareness to the things in which we're most afraid of, then we essentially get ahead of these fears manifesting, because that's essentially what the dynamic is, right? If you're aware, like if you look at your life experience and you look at when real trouble has occurred or things that have really created suffering, it's usually when you've been blindsided by them, or you're completely unaware, you weren't really bringing attention to that thing, and then it kind of came. So if you're perpetually bringing awareness to everything that is or has the potential to create some challenge or some stagnation or something, then you're basically not going to get blindsided, at least in the same way, or it's like it's already there, so you kind of already see it coming, or you can already kind of manage it, right? And so that's the beauty of what we're describing here as kind of like preparation of the dynamic of how we engage cycles, right? And how we engage the dynamic of our own patterns and unknown patterning that we maybe have been carrying for many lifetimes, right? So yeah, hopefully that is quite clear. Not so much different than what we've chatted about for many months and years now, but in a bit of a different way, and also understanding that the whole of what we're speaking of is all interconnected, right? We've talked about this many times in the form of the self-inquiry, right? We're engaging self-inquiry, and we're engaging investigation into charges. So even right now, we can kind of just take a look after we've shared this and we've engaged this initial message. What are we here with now, right? And so instantly, as you're there, you naturally can start to notice where in the body there may be some particular sensations, right? Things that are standing out to you more than others. And this is the funny thing, right? We're basically always at the brink, or always at the forefront of the answers we're seeking, or essentially the resolution we're seeking, the peace we're seeking, because it's in no other place than the investigation of what is standing out. So if you scan your body and you look at your body and you see that it's almost like a topographical graph, like of like on a map, where you have the levels, like the sea levels, like for mountainous regions, or all regions on the planet really, and you have the kind of measurement of how far above or below sea level particular things are. So when we're talking about a particular area in the body that's more pronounced, we could look at that as like a little bit of a hill or a mountain. So if it was on like a fully level map, those parts, maybe the real peaked out mountainous parts, are like in like purple, right? So those points in the body, and that can be whatever color, but in these topographical graphs, usually they have a color map, right? So in these certain points in the body that are more pronounced in terms of a charge or stronger sensation, those are going to be like the mountains on the graph, and they're going to be more pronounced, more strong. versus the areas that are more level, which you really don't feel anything. It's almost like it's empty there. There could be particular areas of your body that you just feel empty because there's no real strength of a sensation. So we can just take a look at that. And so the areas that are more pronounced, we're naturally there with them. We're already there with them because you couldn't avoid them anyways, even if you tried. That's the funny thing. And that's the paradox of suffering. Suffering is just not being with what is. So you have all these little colored up points, say these little mountainous regions in your anatomy, and you may feel the resistance of them, but you feel the resistance of them for as long as you're avoiding them. That's up. As long as you're not investigating, you're feeling the resistance and the suffering. I'm laughing because it's like all teachings point to investigative self-inquiry or advanced meditative, awareness. And they all lead there because that's just what is. Like awareness is already with these things, but you're just avoiding it and resisting it. So that's what's perpetuating. That's why, we walk around, say, with a headache all day. And because there isn't a willingness to look at it and draw the connection that headache's maybe from all the stuff in your colon from the food you ate the day before. And it's been in there all day because you've been so busy and because maybe you ate stuff that doesn't move so well through the colon, and you're kind of just numbing it, going about your day, not looking at it. Well, the whole day you have a headache, and then you have all the stuff in your colon, and then you're just going about your day and trying to like get through it all. But all that takes really is just, oh, let's look at this. Oh, this headache. Oh, this colon. Oh, I got to go to the bathroom. It's so simple. So obviously things can be more complex than this, but they're not really. So as we're looking through our body and we're seeing and we're investigating, meaning we're just simply dissolving any sense of awareness, it's just resting exactly where that mountainous region is. And you'll find that mountainous region just naturally starts to level out. So you're leveling it out in the sense that area also becomes level, but really it's like it feels empty, just like those other areas in the body that you don't even feel. That's why your attention's not on them, because they're already empty. So as you continue to kind of move through these points, you're just again resting in, resting in, resting in, resting in. And so it requires a certain focus and concentration here because if it was this easy, everyone would be doing it. It's explained very easily, it's explained very simply, but it can be quite difficult because, of course, these charged areas are filled with backed up energy, just like your colon can be filled with backed up food, right? And so that can create a delay in the speed of the release. This would be constipation, right? And it's funny we're relating it to this, but as we've talked about many times, famous quote that I've repeated many times, which is all disease is constipation. We can go as far as saying all suffering is constipation. It's just a different type, a mental constipation, an emotional, an energetic constipation. It's energy, thoughts, emotions, physical toxicity that is simply not moving. Right. And it's generally not moving because it's being unacknowledged. It's like, a saying, like if you get things moving in your life, or you get something moving on a project or a relationship, it's because you brought attention to it. If no attention is brought to it, it's stagnant. And that's just the nature of existence. So the beauty of this process that we've engaged here, and we've engaged many times to this investigation, is recognizing that investigative inquiry happens in many, many, many forms. This is one of them. We also describe just the process of going about our day, bringing awareness to the things in which we know we need to, the things in which are nagging, the things in which, require our attention. Likewise, we can also journal this type of process. journaling, this type of process, is so valuable in recognizing that our journals don't need to be love, light, and fairies. Journals also can be revealing, the aspects of darkness that is very troubling, the things that are, very challenging in our experience, and are just words to the sensation. We're putting words to these mountains that we feel in our body, or these topics within our life that seem like mountains, right? Particular challenges that we are essentially resisting because that's why they're there. So essentially the challenge that we're facing is something we do not want, but because we have maybe not brought acknowledgement to the fact we do not want it, like we've potentially not been fully honest about the fact that we do not want that, then inevitably it still continues. So journaling out the things that we do not want can be as important as journaling things that we do want. Maybe it's like a 51-49 on some level, because people often fear this idea, well, if I say what I don't want, or if I focus on what I do not want, I'm going to get it. Well, actually, it's really more accurately when you do not focus on the fact that you don't want something and you just let it fester within your subconscious, then it actually perpetually keeps coming back. And you wonder why it keeps coming back. It's because you haven't really actually acknowledged or been honest about the fact that you do not want that. And because of that, well, there's never awareness to actually acknowledge how to go about, navigating that particular situation or bringing balance to that particular situation. So this journaling practice can be done even here during the session if you like. But it can be done all throughout the day. There's no real time that it cannot be done. You can have a notepad going all day or something on your phone or something where there can be an ongoing opportunity to reflect and put things down, put words to things so that they do not fester. They don't waste too much time within your anatomy, right? If you develop the focus and concentration to be able to pierce through thought forms and charged topics through investigative inquiry, through your meditative practice, then by all means go straight to that. But the journaling practice can be very helpful actually to support in that, especially if the concentration and the ability to pierce through that is not totally there, or at least not at the moment. Maybe it's totally there. So it may be helpful to write that out. And likewise, it can be helpful to just talk about it with someone who almost acts like someone who will receive you in that way, like a journal would, right? Like just a reflection, someone to listen. So this is helpful as well. So I don't know where everyone is at here. We've kind of done this in and out meditative process. I mean, this entire session can be meditation, but some of us may feel complete, at least in a seated practice. Most of these practices, at least for today, I'm not totally feeling a long meditation today, but but much of this, the real value is in your own practice, right? Ongoing practice, obviously with people business too. But if there's any questions on this or reflections on this process, then I highly recommend it. I'm also reminded to, remind everyone about that that meditation bundle on the Gumroad platform. There's obviously so many on my YouTube. You guys can be very busy with the YouTube ones, but I found like some of the best ones that I put together in that meditation bundle because I don't know, I just find it potent, really potent. So, and it's just nice to have them all there. Also in audio format, there's a bunch of them in audio format. So I'm gonna link that actually. But yeah, if there's any questions here. Oh, there's a comment here. It's like how everything happens for a reason. We can find the tools and gifts and everything. Yeah, beautiful. Everything does happen for a reason because, there's a reason to your existence. But also, things are also quite empty, quite empty as well, and that's okay. It's like sometimes we can know everything happens for a reason, but not care what that reason is or not need to know. And that's a beautiful thing too. It's like a trusting in the divine timing and order of things. And on some level, we could say that the knowing of things, like coming into the knowing of the reason for something, let's say. um if you're meant to know it, you're going to know it. It's kind of a funny thing, right? The beauty of investigation is that we come to see the interconnectivity of all things. So things don't so much become a searching for meaning as much they do just a knowing of meaning, right? How beautiful is that, right? A knowing of the meaning in the sense that um, it's not even something that needs to be considered too much, right? Because how many times have we, driven ourselves maybe crazy, to find a meaning to something or some connection or some happening, and on some level, like running that on autopilot, like everything that happens in life constantly in a place of like looking to see what the meaning is. It becomes like this habitual behavior, and that can be okay. I mean, that can be fun at times, but sometimes it can be really draining. It can be really exhausting for that, to need to be going all the time. So what's a beautiful thing is the overall trust and knowing. It's like going around our day thinking about the fact we have hands, we have hands, we have hands, we have hands. It's like it's kind of a knowing at this point. So you probably never really consider the fact that you have hands all day today, let alone all week or all month. So the more we are in that trusting, where we similar to investigative self-inquiry, where you're not actually even caring about what the contents of the thoughts are or the feelings or the sensations. It doesn't matter whether you're thinking about Susie or this or that situation or this feeling or this guilt or this grief or this happening or this childhood trauma. Like it really doesn't matter what it is, because it all is coming back to just subtle sensations. And the more you're willing to go beyond the surface of how things appear, the more the more peace that's going to be there. It's as simple as that, right? But that's quite daunting. That is potentially one of the most frightening things for the majority of people, because of the strength of the intellect, the overbearing strength of the intellect that wants to know, but it can never really know. So it could never really quench its own thirst. And that's why it can be so overwhelming, so exhausting. And that's essentially what happens for all seekers at a certain point, is the seeking gets exhausted. You get exhausted with even spirituality, because you're like, well, where am I even going? Where am I even going? Who am I even trying to be? You see? So it's a beautiful process. It's very beautiful. So yeah, what else? What's new? What's going on? Some people on YouTube. I've been giving attention to what I've been avoiding, and it's been the most helpful thing. Oh, wow, that's great. I say so. One thing I've developed as, like, for many years now, very much a habit is this type of process, and it's such a unconventional thing. Like, it's not a natural thing to want to look at that, because we're so conditioned for positive reinforcement. So it's not that we're looking to create pessimism or negative reinforcement. Like, we're just looking to be honest about what's happening. So we can acknowledge the beauty in our life, as we also can acknowledge what's not working, or what's not functioning properly, or what we don't feel like is righteous. And that's equally as valid and important. And if that is done consistently, as it for me, it's been obviously so many years in this process, but so many years of just continuing to deepen in that. And I was reflecting on this today, where I was reflecting on the idea of the principle of humility, and how humility is inevitable for all beings, because we're inevitably humbled by the consequences of our own actions. And this is similar to what we're discussing here. Is it doesn't really matter what we think about life, or who we think we are, or where we think we've come. We're always going to be humbled by the consequences of our choices. So again, coming back to the trusting in things, when we're facing challenges, when we're facing those consequences, it is a beautiful process, because it's inevitably bringing us into humility. And humility is where peace resides. Peace and humility, grace, these are all qualities of the enlightenment virtue, Yume-zun, which is the 13th virtue, which is the core of our essence in so many ways. And so humility is where we're faced, these consequences that we're facing now, the challenges, the things that are the whiplash of a choice we've made. We're learning through that. We're being humbled, and we're having our beliefs dismantled, so that we can return to the knowing of ourselves, the humility of knowing, right? You can only know something with humility, right? Like, for instance, if somebody's like a world-class soccer player and they know that, they're usually very humble. Like when you look at the 1% of any like sports or something, 1% of anything, that 1% group is usually the most humble and they're usually the best. Right? How paradoxical is that? Because all the lesser levels of that have increasing degrees of arrogance and decreasing degrees of skill. So as you increase your skill legitimately in anything, and we're talking about the degree of peace is also on some level a skill, like developing the skill to come to this peace, then the level of your humility also will increase. But what comes, what did we say where humility comes from? Humility comes from the consequences of action. So it's only those who face the most pain that get to the best, or get to the top, or get to the core, get to the original state. It's because we have to face the pain of our actions. So there's no way to avoid it. That's the funny part, and that's the humbling part, and that's the fortunate part, is as much as we're afraid of pain, we cannot actually ever avoid pain. So we best be willing to embrace it and then actually enjoy the process and see how helpful, like Brennick's saying, how helpful this type of approach is. It is so helpful. There's nothing more helpful than it, because we're embracing comfort. We enjoy comfort, but we're not attached to comfort. Right? This is our relationship to comfort here. So yeah, that was a little tidbit. Maybe we'll save that little clip on humility, because that one's a nice one. So yeah. So yeah, I don't have too much today. I just wanted to do a short session just to check in. Maybe next week we'll have a longer session, a deeper meditation. I was also very deep in some musical work that had much of my focus today, or at least tonight. So hopefully those will be released soon. I'm actually really looking forward to that. And some new writing pieces will probably come not too far after that. Definitely some creative moods around here. I hope some creative moods are happening for us all in different ways, whatever it looks like, but it's always nice to have something, some creative project or something going. Doesn't need to be your livelihood or your business or your vocation or your purpose. But just having small creative projects going is endlessly helpful, because it can be very empowering to feel the accomplishment of finishing something or doing something, and that you feel proud of, you feel connected to, or you feel like, again, you're developing your skill set, right, in whatever way. So I encourage that a lot. So yeah, if there's any other questions or comments, then feel free on YouTube or on Zoom. Don't have too much else unless something kind of sparks. I know there's a lot of just all kinds of things going on in the world at the moment. I haven't been, I keep my eye out. I'm actually quite aware of a lot of things. People will be pretty surprised of that I keep tabs on, whether that's social media influencer people, or CNN, or the world happenings, all kinds of things. I'm quite tuned into a very vast amount of topics. I just don't talk about them much because I don't feel they're that relevant in some ways. But I may start, because sometimes we have this human life, and we're interacting with a lot of people, and we're watching and all interacting with some bigger name people that have certain influences that are doing some great things and some not so great things. And I feel it's always good to keep things accountable, and point at those who are really benefiting the world in many ways, and those who are, again, maybe not so much, and bringing clarity to that topic. I feel that's something that I've always enjoyed. I know the past couple of years, I was, especially during the heat of COVID, I was sharing a lot more about worldly topics for obvious reasons, and bringing more attention to that, because that was like the wave of the energy for us all. But it's definitely slowed for a bit, but it doesn't mean those things are not still continuing. There's many things that are still continuing, and yeah, maybe I'll find some time to do a session more on worldly things. Although everything we're talking about is very worldly, it's just more practical to our direct experience of peace, which I feel is most important. So that's that. I hope all of you are doing well, and you have a great rest of your day or evening. This recording will be up on YouTube, but yeah, that's all for now. If you ever want to schedule some time with me, feel free. But I will see you at this point next Wednesday. Lots of love. Chat soon, friends. See ya.